because most people, including myself, we don't understand the process. You know, like now when something negative happens, I understand the process because I've learned over the years that everything you're going through is God preparing you for what you asked for. My focus was in what I was trying to make happen. And I was losing sight of what had already happened.
Right.
And if you want more, you got to be grateful for what you have. But I was so busy wanting the more.
Right.
My father never talked to me about God, never talked to me about prayer, faith. All he talked to me about was hard work. Hard work, be a man, take care of your family.
What if the man who makes the world laugh has lived through pain most cannot imagine? At 68, the tragedy of Steve Harvey is beyond heartbreaking and shockingly real. Let's find out. The mask behind the laughter. Every night, millions laugh with Steve Harvey. He commands the stage, cracks jokes with effortless timing, and turns game shows into unforgettable moments. But the man behind the booming laugh and polished image carries scars that never truly healed. At 68, Steve Harvey is one of the most accomplished entertainers alive. He hosts, writes, produces, and inspires millions around the world. Yet what most people see is only the surface. Behind the curtain lies a tragic story of hunger, heartbreak, broken families, financial disaster, and humiliation, so painful that even now he admits it still haunts him. This is not a simple tale of struggle before success. It is a lifetime of storms, each one arriving just as he thought he had finally made it. Homeless and hopeless. One of the darkest chapters of Harvey's life came in the mid-1980s when he spent 3 years living in the back of a beat-up 1976 Ford. This was not a metaphor. He truly had no home. The car was his bed, his kitchen, his closet, and his shelter from the rain. He would shower in gas stations, swimming pools, or hotel bathrooms when he could sneak in. He stored cheap bologna sandwiches in a cooler. Often, he would go hungry, curling up in the back seat with nothing but prayers to carry him through the night. Harvey later explained that surviving homelessness for a week is possible. Surviving for a month is painful, but living that way for 3 years can break a human being completely. Each day was a battle against despair. He almost gave up. On one particularly hopeless night, he picked up the phone to call his father and admit defeat. But before dialing, he checked his answering machine and found 2 messages from comedy clubs offering him small paid gigs. The pay was tiny, but it was enough to put gas in the car and make it to New York for a chance at an audition at the Apollo Theater. That chance turned into his breakthrough, but the years of homelessness left permanent scars. Even decades later, Harvey admitted that no matter how much wealth he gained, he often still thought about those nights spent shivering inside that Ford. Success shadowed by family tragedy. When his career began to rise, Harvey should have been celebrating. But fame brought with it new tragedies. His first marriage collapsed under the weight of poverty, long absences, and the pressure of chasing a dream. The breakup left his family fractured and his children hurt. His second marriage to Mary Shackelford was even more painful. The divorce became public, messy, and humiliating. Custody battles and accusations filled the tabloids, dragging his personal life into the spotlight in the worst possible way. For a man who built his image on confidence and laughter, watching his family life crumble publicly was devastating. Harvey has admitted that one of his deepest regrets is not being present for his children during those years. He confessed that while he was chasing fame, his children were growing up without him. And that is a pain he still carries, one that no amount of success can heal. Financial ruin and the fear of prison. Just when it seemed his career was finally stabilizing, Harvey faced another tragedy that nearly destroyed him completely. At one point, he checked his bank account and found only $1,700 left. But that was only the beginning. He then discovered that his taxes had not been properly filed for 7 years. The penalties and interest piled into millions of dollars. Suddenly, the man who was appearing on stages and television screens across America was facing the possibility of financial ruin and even prison. The fear was overwhelming. Harvey later said that he lived each day terrified that the government would seize everything he had. The weight of that pressure was crushing. Many men in his situation would have folded, but Harvey chose to fight. He turned to radio, waking at 4 in the morning to host shows, and often working until midnight. The grind nearly broke his body, but it kept him afloat. Every laugh he created on air came from a man drowning in fear, yet determined not to surrender. Radio became his lifeline. Slowly, step by step, Harvey rebuilt his career. His voice reached millions each morning, and his persistence caught the attention of television executives. Soon, new doors opened. He began publishing books, turning his pain into lessons for others. His book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, became a bestseller, later adapted into a successful movie. For Harvey, each project was more than just work. It was survival. Every new opportunity was another brick laid on the ruins of his past tragedies. Then, in 2010, came the job that would transform his career once again. He was offered the role of hosting Family Feud. At first, many doubted whether he could revive the aging show, but within 3 years, Harvey completely reinvented it, turning Family Feud into one of the most popular programs in daytime television. The world finally saw Steve Harvey as a giant of entertainment. But just as he stood at the peak, another storm hit, one that would leave him humiliated in front of millions. The Miss Universe humiliation. In 2015, Harvey hosted the Miss Universe pageant. It was supposed to be a night of glamour and celebration. Instead, it became one of the most embarrassing moments in live television history. When he mistakenly announced the wrong winner, the shock spread instantly across the theater and across the world.
Wild ending to the Miss Universe pageant. You can see it right here. Miss Columbia being crowned the winner Sunday night. Host Steve Harvey just announced the wrong name.
Cameras captured the heartbreak of the contestants, the stunned silence of the audience, and the horror on Harvey's face as he realized what had happened. Within minutes, the internet exploded. Memes spread, headlines mocked him, and social media ripped him apart. For weeks, his mistake was replayed endlessly. For Harvey, those minutes felt like a lifetime of failure. After everything he had survived, the world was once again laughing at him, this time on the largest stage imaginable. He later admitted that the humiliation nearly crushed him, but instead of retreating, he returned the following year to host again. That decision turned a moment of ridicule into a statement of courage. Still, the memory of that mistake continues to follow him, a scar that fame will never erase. Health struggles in later life. As Harvey approached his late 60s, the years of relentless work and endless stress began to weigh heavily on his health. He struggled with high blood pressure and sleep apnea, both conditions made worse by years of exhaustion and constant anxiety. Even now, surrounded by wealth and success, Harvey admits that he still fears losing everything again. He says that he still thinks about the time when he had only $1,700 left. That fear has never left him, and it continues to push him harder than most men his age. Love as his redemption. Amid all the heartbreak, one thing gave Harvey peace. In 2007, he married Marjorie Bridges, the woman he calls his greatest blessing. Years earlier, he had seen her in an audience and whispered to himself that he would marry her someday. Life tore them apart, but destiny brought them back together. Marjorie gave him stability, support, and a family that healed the wounds of his past. Together, they built a blended family of 7 children. For the first time, Harvey felt that he truly had a home. One of the most emotional moments of his life came when his stepson told him, "You gave me your last name." "There's no one better than you," Dad Harvey broke down in tears, knowing that despite all he had lost in his earlier years, he had finally gained something priceless: the price of fame. Steve Harvey's success looked effortless to the outside world, hosting Family Feud, selling bestsellers, commanding stages, and shaping global entertainment. Yet inside, the cost of that fame was staggering. Every laugh he created came with hidden tears. Every deal he signed carried the memory of when he had nothing. Fame never fully healed him. It only added new layers of pressure. The moment he rose higher, the fear of falling returned even stronger. Harvey admitted that his mind often drifted back to those nights of homelessness when a car was his only shelter. Even with mansions and millions, he sometimes closed his eyes and still felt the weight of cold seats, empty stomachs, and hopeless prayers. That fear became part of him, shaping the way he worked, the way he lived, and the way he trusted people. Broken homes. The deepest scars in Harvey's life came from the collapse of his marriages. His first marriage ended with poverty and disappointment. His second ended with courtroom battles and accusations that shredded his private life in public. His children were caught in the middle of broken promises and bitter separations. Harvey later admitted that his greatest regret was not being there for them when they needed him most. He said once that chasing the dream of comedy stole time from his children, time he could never get back. It is a pain he has carried for decades. For all his wealth, for all the applause, he could not buy back the lost birthdays, the missed school events, and the nights his children wished their father was home. That regret has never left him, and even in interviews today, it brings him to tears. The tax nightmare. As if broken families were not enough, Harvey nearly lost everything financially. Discovering that his taxes had gone unfiled for 7 years was not just a financial disaster. It was a nightmare that almost ended his career. The debt reached into the millions. He lived each day terrified that the government would seize his property, his income, and possibly his freedom. For a man who once lived in a car, the idea of losing everything again was crushing. He has admitted that the thought of prison kept him awake at night. He worked himself to the bone to pay off the debt, waking up before dawn for radio, then spending his days on television, writing books, or preparing for tours. Every laugh he gave the world was built on exhaustion and fear. The tragedy was not only the money, but the betrayal that caused it. Harvey trusted the wrong people with his finances, and their mistakes nearly destroyed him. For years, he carried the shame of being one step away from disaster, even as he smiled on camera. The night the world laughed. The Miss Universe mistake in 2015 remains one of the most humiliating public moments of Steve Harvey's life. Standing on stage, announcing the wrong winner, watching confusion turn to chaos, and then facing the responsibility of correcting it, all in front of millions, was a nightmare that never left him. Within hours, the mistake was everywhere. The internet mocked him, the media replayed the clip endlessly, and Harvey became the punchline of jokes across the world. For weeks, he could not escape it. He admitted that those moments felt like his entire life collapsing again, as if every struggle, every scar, every humiliation had returned to laugh at him. Most people would have walked away from such shame, but Harvey returned the following year to host again. That act of courage showed resilience, but the pain of that night remains part of his story. Even now, people mention Miss Universe before mentioning his triumphs, a reminder that the world never forgets mistakes. Health and exhaustion. By his 60s, Harvey's relentless pace took a heavy toll on his body. He suffered from high blood pressure, sleep apnea, and fatigue from decades of overwork. The stress of building and maintaining his empire wore down his health. He admitted that even surrounded by success, he felt fragile. He knew that stress could kill him if he did not slow down, yet slowing down was never in his nature. The boy who once promised himself never to return to poverty could not stop working, even when his health begged him to. The tragedy of his health struggles is that they are partly caused by the very determination that saved him. His drive, born from pain, gave him everything and at the same time risked taking it all away. Redemption through love. If there was one force that saved Steve Harvey, it was love. Meeting and marrying Marjorie Bridges gave him stability and peace. She became his anchor, the one person who could calm the storms inside him. Marjorie did more than give him companionship. She helped him rebuild a family. Together, they created a blended family of 7 children. For Harvey, who carried the pain of broken marriages and regrets about fatherhood, this was redemption. One of the most touching moments came when his stepson told him, "You gave me your last name." "There is no one better than you," Dad Harvey cried openly, realizing that despite all the pain he had caused and endured, life had given him a second chance at fatherhood. But even love could not erase the past. It gave him healing, but it could not undo the scars. Harvey himself has admitted that while Marjorie saved him, the pain of his earlier failures still lingers. Haunted by the past. At 68, Steve Harvey lives in mansions, vacations on yachts, and wears designer suits, but the tragedies of his life never left him. He still talks about the days of sleeping in a car. He still admits that he sometimes fears losing everything again. He still carries guilt about the children he missed raising. He still feels the humiliation of Miss Universe every time it is brought up. For the public, Harvey is a man of laughter. For those who know his story, he is a man built on pain. His tragedy is not only that he suffered, but that even at the peak of his success, he cannot escape the weight of what he endured. The bigger tragedy. The tragedy of Steve Harvey is bigger than homelessness, failed marriages, or financial ruin. It is the reality that even success did not free him from suffering. He built an empire, but the scars stayed. He inspired millions, but he still cried behind closed doors. He stood tall in the spotlight, but sometimes felt lonelier than ever. His life is a reminder that fame and fortune cannot erase pain. They can only cover it with smiles and applause. At 68, Steve Harvey proves that even legends bleed, even icons cry, and even the strongest carry heartbreak in silence. When you watch Steve Harvey today, laughing with contestants on Family Feud or giving motivational speeches, remember that behind the smile is a man who endured years of hunger, betrayal, humiliation, and regret. His story is heartbreaking, but it is also inspiring. He teaches us that no tragedy has to be the end.
It feels real heavy sometimes, and like you say, when you're in the spotlight, you don't get to live your mistakes under the cloak of darkness.
Every scar can be a lesson, and every failure can be a reason to rise again. Steve Harvey at 68 is not just a comedian. He is a survivor. His laughter is not just entertainment, it is proof that pain can be transformed into power. But his tragedy remains, carved into his past, shaping his present, and reminding the world that success never comes without scars. Steve Harvey's journey is heartbreaking yet inspiring. If his story touched you, subscribe now. More powerful stories of resilience, scars, and survival are coming, and you will not want to miss them.